Howdy y'all, Locally Nomadic here, and today we're going to do a video about how to off-road your truck camper and how to navigate in the backcountry, do it in the safest way possible, plan ahead, and hopefully mitigate some of that risk that comes along with getting far off the beaten path and out in the boonies. So first off, I want to start by explaining a little bit of my background. I have a Jeep Wrangler that I've wheeled in Utah and Oregon and Texas and Illinois and across the country a little bit. So I've learned some things there that help translate to being able to off-road something of this size a bit better and knowing some things to think of. So I'd done that for the past 5 years and before getting the camper. And then when I got the camper, I was on my border-to-border trip in the wintertime and saw a lot of snow, some mud in the springtime, a lot of mountains, a little bit of desert and stuff in between. So I've seen a variety of terrain in this vehicle with the camper, as well as normal off-roading in a more off-road type vehicle. So with that, let's get started and we'll go through all the stuff that will help you off-road your truck camper better and be prepared. The number one thing to remember when off-roading your truck camper and going into the backcountry is to think ahead. You always want to be thinking ahead and scouting ahead and knowing where you're going to the best of your ability, even if you're going into the unknown. So what I mean by that is researching ahead, satellite images, scouting ahead, whether that be on foot or using a vehicle of some sort, but you always want to think ahead and know your turnarounds. When you're going, be observant. When you're going down a forest road, know where the road's wide enough for you to turn around. With a rig like this, it's about 24 feet long. I can turn around in a widened 2-lane road, but for other vehicles, it could be a lot shorter, other vehicles longer. But that's still a manageable length where I can turn around in a lot of places off the beaten path. But it can be hard because a lot of forest roads, you're coming off the highway and either going down the mountain or up the mountain. So both of those present challenges when you're off level and trying to turn around, especially with a high center of gravity vehicle. So you always want to be thinking ahead, know your turnarounds, where you can turn around, where you can back up to, so then you can turn around and get out of there if the road is too rough for your vehicle. So always be observant, think ahead, and know your turnarounds. Second of all, an old piece of advice I've heard is use 2-wheel drive to get in and 4-wheel drive to get out. So this means that if you have to use 4-wheel drive to get into an area, especially if you're alone and don't have a recovery vehicle, you want to be really careful and have the ability to self-recover, whether that be a winch or a shovel or traction boards or something like that. But you want to be prepared and be able to self-recover if need be. But I try to go by that adage as much as possible and just use 2-wheel drive to get into an area, and then you can always use 4-wheel drive to get out. Gives you a little more peace of mind sometimes. But there have been times where I didn't use that and I got stuck and it took me hours to get out on my own and I was out of cell service and it wasn't a good time at all. So 2-wheel drive to get in, 4-wheel drive to get out is a good rule of thumb. And basically with thinking ahead, you want to scout ahead, use all the tools available to you, whether download maps, paper maps, look at satellite images before you go to a place, know where the clearings are, know where you can turn around. And a drone can help with scouting. Or you can simply walk ahead on the trail and look at the trail so you know where you're going. Or use scouting tools. Like, for example, I use this one wheel and it can go about 30 miles on a charge. But you could also use a dirt bike, you could use a mountain bike, or anything else that lets you, a smaller vehicle that lets you go forward on the road ahead to look at where you're going and if it's safe for your vehicle. Basically, you want to mitigate as much of the risk as possible by being informed and knowing where you're going as much as possible, even if it is the unknown to you and you've never physically been there. There's a lot of tools in the 21st century now that allow us to learn information before we're actually there. So if you utilize those, that goes a long ways in helping you be prepared and knowing the terrain you're going to get in. But then again, even with doing all the preparation, you can still get there and there can be a washout in the road or a rut in the road that is just too much for a high center of gravity vehicle. So you need to be prepared to turn around and have an alternate spot to stay for the night. But you just prepare and plan ahead and usually have some extra food and water with you and some tools, but just be as well supplied as you possibly can in your vehicle. And that goes a long way into being able to get out of situations, especially if you're on your own or only have one vehicle and a few people. But yeah, Just be prepared. And as far as tools go, there are some tools you can have in your truck or your vehicle that can help. With a truck camper, airbags independently plumbed helps a lot and helps that sway. And you need them to be independently plumbed so they're not acting like an accordion and pumping air into the other as they go. So, and I can air mine up from the cab. It's pretty easy, but you just utilize the gauge and the switches right there. But that means I can do it on the go, and that helps a lot. So yeah, there they are right there. And those help a lot with sway. As you can see, I do not have a sway bar under here. I'd like to add a sway bar that could help with some of the drops and dips, especially at low speed off-road, and because it does tend to sway a lot then because of the springs in here, but those are also forgiving, so that's a good thing. But a sway bar could help and go a long way. With the leaf springs, they just do not have enough sway control for a camper this large. And also having good tires goes a long ways. These are Coopers. I recently put them on and they've been good so far. They're rated to over 4,000 pounds. But basically for a truck camper, you don't want to go cheap on tires. You want to get something high quality. But having the right tools goes a long ways. Out here in the Sierras, northwest of Lake Tahoe. That's basically it. Just some tips to help you off-road your truck camper. Plan ahead, be prepared, and scout ahead. Always know your turnarounds, be observant, two-wheel drive in, four-wheel drive out, and be prepared and have a great adventure. And I hope everyone has an excellent day. Thanks for watching.